Hello guys, welcome to Banter Blitz with International Master Andrey Ostrovskiy, that's me. No surprises here. Just as usual, let me know if you can hear and see me well on chat. And I can see there are lots of people here. Azurmis says that on this day, Alexander Elohim and Alexander Grishuk were born. Wow, nice. What's interesting, they share very, dynamic and ambitious chess style. Well, at least the younger Grishuk was definitely very, very aggressive player. Don't know what's going on nowadays, but anyway. Azurmist also says, as well as Zeals, great audio, video okay, sound okay. Well, to some people it's great, to some people it's okay. Main point being that, well, you can understand what I'm saying and you can see what's happening on the board. That's probably the most important part here. All right, so just as usual, let's get to the challengers list and see if we can find somebody I've never ever played before. Well, actually we don't have a lot of challenges, so I'll just play one by one. Zevich is the first, so I'll accept that challenge. Here we go. So, I'm in the mood today to make normal openings with some strangely looking lines. Let's see if I can do it. In Sicilian, you normally don't have to do it because, Sicilian itself is pretty interesting opening. And it allows both sides to play something aggressive, right? Okay. So the question from Dangerous Ride, time control, well, you choose, but normally I prefer 5 minutes because my main idea behind this show is just to teach mainly, not to win each and every game. So I'm trying to discuss the things that happen on the board. I take my time to provide you with some insights. So 5 minutes look a better choice from this perspective. All right. And the challenges, well, I will be just taking them one by one today. All right. So this is a sideline with the queen to d4, and within this sideline with queen to d4, I mean white's queen takes d4, there is another sideline which is black's queen to d4, which happened in this game, and now we almost immediately got the queenless middle game because we're still having lots of other pieces on the board, so I'm not going to call it an endgame already, in which white has a slightly better pawn structure as for my taste. So let's try to convert it. Let's just castle for now, protecting c2 and activating the rook. And I think this move also makes sense, just to limit the knight a bit and the bishop as well. And now it's time to do something with these squares, like c5, maybe a5, a6, and pawn c6 and a7. For now, though, I guess we should just complete the development. So let's play bishop to c4. h5, not sure that this move does anything. Let's just centralize our pieces. After rook h to e1, there is a direct threat of bishop to c5, I think winning the pawn on e7. Alright, rook e8 protects that in advance. Weakens a bit the one on f7, but it's not that critical, I guess. So what can we do? We can bring our knight to c5 instead of the bishop, but I'm not sure that our knight is doing anything there. On the other hand, why not? It's a good square. A good outpost, and from there the knight can jump somewhere else. For example, things like knight to a6, creating a threat of knight to c7 come to mind. Alright. Yeah, I mean, white should be better here. Slightly for now, but much better long term, I guess. Now there is a threat to b2, so something like knight to d5 becomes possible. Attacking b2 with the rook and the bishop from g7, so I have to be careful here. Should I just play knight to a6? Well, it doesn't do anything because rook goes to b7. So I believe we can just wait a bit with this move, bishop to b3. So first we close the b file for the rook. Second, we prepare something like bishop a4 at the right moment to attack c6, because after all, this c6 is one of our targets as well as a7. So long-term plan for white is just to attack black's weaknesses on the queen side, according to this pawn structure. Okay. Now what? I probably slightly underestimated that move. I thought, okay, I would play bishop d4, but now I see there is just e5. Should we provoke that e5? I think it's not a bad idea, after all. Black plays e5, weakening d6, so potentially we can use that square as well, after some maneuvering. And e5 is not necessarily that of a great help to black. So I'm not sure that black can create a passer right now or in the nearest future. Doesn't feel like a realistic thing, right? So I guess e5 is more like a weakening of the d6 for now. The other question, if it is, you know, critical weakening, because if we bring the knight to e4 then to d6, well, it takes 2 moves and black is not forced to stay calm and just, you know, look at it. So it's possible to prevent those things. All right. Anyway, what's going on here? We can play c3 now because d3 is covered by the knight from c5. I think it's a good idea just to forget about... Oh, I completely forgot about bishop h6 and all these tactics, but fortunately it's not a big deal, so I can play bishop e3 after all, and knight a2, there's just bishop takes a2. So everything is covered here, but I was about to blunder something terribly. That's a bad thing, obviously. Now bishop h6 is a huge problem, so probably bishop to c2 makes sense to me, just to get rid of that bishop. Well, it's basically not what I wanted. Also, bishop d5 deserved attention, but I was not sure it was good after all. Yeah, I'm not sure that c3 was a well idea. Wasn't good, I think. Yeah, but anyway, we still keep our minimal advantage here, I believe. So it's okay. It's okay. Just play that move. Don't see how this is bad for me. And now let's just finally activate the rook, right? Becomes absolutely possible to do. Yeah, let's bring the rook to d7. Why not? Attacking a7 already. Knight e6, rook e6, bishop a7 was also an option, by the way, and I missed that one. I forgot that after rook to a8, attacking the bishop and intending to take my pawn on a2 if the bishop goes away, I could have played rook to d7 in that line. So I could have won a pawn, right? Missed that one. All right. Okay. So now let's just replace one rook with another one. I think that pawn will drop anyway. Alright, so let's just fix it here. So that rook can't go to b5. And that pawn can't move. And then the rest should be simple. So first let's take there. And now let's play rook to a7. And the pawn drops, as I said before. So we're pawn up in the rook ending, and black still has a bunch of weaknesses here. The rest is just a question of a technique, right? And it's usually not my best part in Banter Blitz, at least. So let's close the 4th rank for the rook. Let's get there to attack g6, which was weakened on the previous move. And now it feels like an easy win, right? The pawn just runs up to a8 square. It's hard to prevent. Or, well, at least black has to do something with the rook. just move it to the back rank, which loses the g6 pawn, stuff like that. Anyway, it's over now. It's over now. King c4 was not strictly necessary. a7 also won the game immediately. But I just like the feeling of having the king on c4 in such a situation. Okay, so that was pretty simple game. I mean, nothing dynamic happened here, so I didn't have to calculate a lot. The only moment where I felt not very comfortable was after Black's knight to b4, where I almost immediately played this c3, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do if Black plays bishop to h6, because now my king doesn't have a square to hide. But fortunately, there is still this bishop e3 possible. But I mean, it's a bad sign that I don't even consider moves like that. That is, yeah, something that never happens if you are in good shape, which I'm apparently not. So, yeah, as for the rest, well, everything that I said during the game was true. So the pawn structure is indeed worse for Black in this line. That's why I don't really like queen to d4. So after that, it's forced, right? After knight to c6, Black has to take there and then take on c6. I played only one tournament game within this sideline of a sideline of the Accelerated Dragon. It was many years ago in the Aeroflot Open B tournament. So it was like 2006, perhaps 5, I don't remember. So like, what, like 15 years ago? Oh my god, yeah, was long ago. And I won convincingly with white, but the problem is you can't actually fetch that game from the database, because, you know, all these side tournaments that are happening in Russia or somewhere in Ukraine rarely make their way to the chess-based database, for example. So they land somewhere in Russian-specific databases, and at some point I switched to chess-based, so I lost all the records, and unfortunately I cannot actually fetch that game and look at it, because I do remember I somehow found a very nice setup for white during the game, which was very convincing. It prevented all the counterplay. So in this game it was also not so hard for white, to be honest, but still I'm not really convinced. For example, here maybe knight to g4 deserves some attention, but then okay, I can play bishop to c5, yeah. So it's not necessarily that terrible for Black here. But maybe Black can do something aggressive now. So there, maybe castling immediately. There should be some counterplay for Black, right? If I play f3, there is knight to e3. If I play h3, maybe I'm just winning a pawn. I don't know. Maybe even more than a pawn. Have no idea. But the main problem of this is this pawn structure, obviously. And if you don't get the counterplay, the things are pretty sad for Black. So I'm just gradually improving my pieces. And then you have no active counterplay, while I'm having a very simple plan of just attacking your weaknesses, right? So here I missed a very good moment to win a pawn. I could have captured on e6, and after rook e6, immediately bishop takes, sorry, that was a mouse sleep, so bishop takes a7, and after rook to a8, I didn't see in my calculations that I could have played rook to d7, protecting that bishop, and I have enough time to play a3, so I'm actually just a pawn up here, I guess. All right, thanks for the game. Consider playing something more aggressive, instead of queen to d4, except for the case you want to simplify a position immediately. But I think if you play dragon, it's not what you want. So I believe things like bishop to g7 should be considered here, just sacrificing the pawn on c6. And maybe bishop to d7, I don't remember. I think bishop d7 is also a valid line. So something like that. But keep queens on the board. That would be my suggestion for a dragon player. All right, Onam is the next, except playing with black pieces. So maybe it's a good occasion to try something that I don't play regularly, right? As I said before, I want to kind of mix openings this time. And that is pretty much what Onam plays himself with black. Not necessarily this a6, but it's also something like a modern defense, I believe. Well, Let's see how that works. What? I can take on d4 now. What's going on? Let's do it. Am I stupid? Am I missing something? I don't think so. It's just a central pawn, a very important one. Probably my opponent didn't expect knight to c6 move at all. But bishop g5 didn't look like a pre-move either, so I don't know what happened. Maybe just a blunder. That thing happens pretty often. So I can take on f3 now, no problems with that move, then continue with the knight to f6. I can also consider bishop to g4. I should just check some tactics now. Based on bishop f7, king f7, knight e5. No, that doesn't work at all. So let's do it, right? Knight e5 is also nothing. I have enough space. So there is no legal mate or something similar to that, right? No ideas like that. What to do now? So we want to continue with our development, right? Knight to f6 immediately doesn't work because of d4 knight henning, so we can protect our knight with the c5 move. That's absolutely a valid option. We can also just take on f3. It doesn't solve the problem of the henning knight and d4 though. So, and I really want to keep my knight there. I think it looks gorgeous. h5, is it dangerous? I don't think so. It's not necessarily dangerous, so I guess c5 looks good. It's a pawn move in the opening, but I don't see that white is having a tremendous advantage in development here, so I think I can afford a move with the pawn at this point. Let's get rid of the bishop, because e7 is protected. And then we can just put our knight on f6, right? Almost finishing with the development. Bishop to e3, challenging our knight. Okie dokie. Oh, let's try something strange indeed. No. Not going to. I wanted to do what? I wanted to take on f3 with the knight, and after g takes f3, put my bishop on h5. Which would be okay if there is no knight on d5 being able to go to f4 and just grab my bishop there. No, I don't like it. I don't really like it. So what should we do instead? Just knight takes f3 and bishop elsewhere to d7, let's say. Yeah, I guess it's absolutely fine. Let's remove it even. Intending to play b5, by the way, so it's not entirely a waste of time. b2 is under attack as well, and knight f6 is ready. So, multi-purpose operation, and this is all in addition to extra pawn that we have after knight takes d4. So I'm pretty happy with my position here. Okay, queen d2 gives me a chance to take on b2 if I want. But first I want to check... Oh, this would be a terrible blunder. b5 takes, rook a8, queen a8, knight to c7, winning the queen. No, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, let's just play knight to f6. So you know, it's typical ideas. Just completing your development on time. Developing your pieces in the opening. They all sound banal, but they're all good. There is a reason why they're called opening principles. Years of practice behind it. Okay, now we can play b5, I suppose. Do we really want to do that? h6 is handy. I'm not happy with that moment, so let's just protect it. So that we can castle after all. And by the way, we're fixing the weakness on h4, so whenever we exchange queens, let's say, just imagine it's an endgame stage. It will be a pretty helpful thing, right? To have that pawn under attack. Why not? Now what? b5 looks attractive. Simple capture on b2 looks attractive as well. Just castling looks good. I don't know. Which one to choose? Let's try this one. Risky, 25 seconds on the clock, but we're playing with the increment. So, I believe it's gonna be fine after all. Let's take that one. Or not. Not sure. Let's go away. This is definitely giving white some chances. I don't know why I played like this. Probably I'm just overestimating my position. Yeah, annoying stuff. E6 was suggested, but I think this is a better way to play for white indeed. But e takes d6 was much more ambitious, I guess, because now I'm just getting away with this. So white played correctly, but I think the idea was just to open the position, then to bring the rook, because I have a problem with the coordination. Now I don't really. So king g8, king h7 is still something that is quite annoying, but it's absolutely manageable. Okay, rook d7 is coming. I'm not sure about this at all. 13 seconds. 13 seconds. Connecting the queen to defense. That's the single idea behind it. No other ideas. Okay. And then bishop to f6. Hopefully he's still holding somehow. Oh my dear lord. Crazy. If rook d7, I can take rook f6, king e7, queen g7, and then king d6. Yeah, I can run away. What to do now, though? Seven seconds on the clock of my opponent. Okay. Oh, crazy. Bishop c5 was winning. Snap. Bishop c5 was winning there. My god. Okay, so I survived it only because of the time trouble, so I so badly misplayed my winning position after knight d4 that we got this one here, and at some point white could have... Yeah, I think here after rook g8, queen g8, bishop c5, and what to do? I mean, that's it. I cannot take on c5 with the rook because of queen g8. I cannot move my king to the back rank because I lose my queen, and after king f7 there's just rook d7. That's it, game over. I mean, just two moves, and well, maybe not two moves. Of course I would have played bishop e7, rook takes, king goes to f6, and I'm just a minor piece down here. And look at this. No, there is nothing to look at. It's still a lost position after queen g8, rook g8, and then rook somewhere, let's say to a7. So what to say? So black just lost the thread completely at some point. So everything was fine here. For example, here you don't even have to play c5. You can take on f3 if you want. Maybe instead of just playing this bishop g4, knight takes f3 was the easiest way to play. And then simply knight to f6. I don't see anything wrong with this one. Right? So you just develop your pieces, you castle just like a normal human being instead of playing these tricks. But anyway, I played what I played. That was, after all, not so bad up to some moment. Even here it was completely fine. Right? Yeah, just, I mean, just play something normal here, I believe. So b4 was probably the start of serious problems. So probably something like castling here was completely fine, right? Why didn't I castle? I have no idea. Just castling, and ab5 rook is protected. I'm still a pawn up. Yeah, it's a bit risky because I have weakened my position here, but, well, I believe I have enough resources to protect myself. Anyway, thanks for the game. Lunatic Soul is the next one, and 3 minutes, so I have to play faster. I have to play faster, and I'm playing with black pieces. So probably no experimenting in this particular game, so I'll play something that I usually play, because if you are experimenting, then you need a bit more time. Then 3 minutes. Okay. So here we have a Catalan immediately. And this exchange on d5 indeed simplifies black's tasks, in my opinion. So, let's see. Just dealing with potential, what? Potential minority attack. Now we have, you know, Carlsbad pawn structure with the bishop on g2 instead of being somewhere on d3, which is a typical version of it. So what's the difference? The difference is that no one controls c4 square, so typical minority attack with the b4 and then b5. Once white plays b4, c4 is weakened so much that black can easily land on that square with the knight, for example. Right? It's not a very pleasant thing, in my opinion, for white. Right, what's going on here? So I somehow weakened my b7. That's not very good looking now. I guess I can still play something like this. Yeah, it's ugly, but I don't think it's for a long time. Not sure what white achieved with this knight to h4 move. Like, h6 was played exactly to give my bishop a block. What? Is it really possible? What about g5 now? I know it's risky, but it's winning a, what? A minor piece. Crazy. I can probably even start with this move here. Oh, come on. This is not true, right? This is not true. It's not happening. Because if I'm not terribly mistaken, black should be just winning now. Or maybe I'm terribly mistaken. Look at knight to d6. This is crazy. This is crazy. Come on. And Azura missed pointed out that bishop b8 was possible. Yeah, it was always possible. So after g5 that I considered like a simple fork winning the piece there was bishop to b8. That's correct. But here I think bishop b8 is incorrect. I don't know. Position is still very strange. The knight d6 is still possible, I suppose. What's going on? I've never seen this before. I mean, all these patterns are pretty strange to me. Knight to c5 is absolutely offside. Knight to d6 was great. It was really interesting. Probably, well, maybe not winning, but definitely not losing. Even before taking on b8, right? We will have a look at this after the game. So now I think I'm just a minor piece up and there is nothing to complain about. So I should just move my bishop away. That's gonna be pretty much it, right? Let's just put it here. Knight d7, queen d8, knight b6, rook a6. So my rook escapes easily. No problems with that. And in this case, I can play what? I can play queen d5, I think. Still not the best way to play, I think. Like crazy game. Like I didn't want to experiment, but my opponent took that role. Okay, I think it's time to bring the rook to normal place. So it's enough of being on a7. Moreover, I promised it would be temporarily occupied square. So it's the best moment to come back to normal. Alright. f7 is protected, so I can play bishop d6. f7 is protected by the queen from d5. Yeah. So the most interesting part in this game was actually left behind the curtain. Alright, so what's going on here? We can just take on e5, I think, because d8 is controlled by the rook from d1. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so let's have a look at this e4 moment. That was crazy. That was crazy. Like bishop there, and then e4. So Azurmis said that, well, after g5 there was bishop b8. No question. So g5 would be just to weaken another position. So I captured on e4. First of all, I didn't expect bishop e4 at all. Like I thought, what? Knight takes c4, knight takes c4, bishop takes h4. Okay, I comfortably fine here. I just take on e4 next move. And come on, winning the game, right? But then I looked at this position. What about knight to d6 move? I guess that was the move. First of all, going away with the knight from the attacked square, e4, attacking the rook on e8, attacking the pawn on f7. And for example, if I take there, that's the whole point. After rook to e1, my bishop is still hanging. We should understand that. f7 is hanging, and there is a threat of rook to e8. That is the worst part here, I mean, for black. So I cannot, for example, go bishop e7 because of queen f7, which wins instantly for white. Game over. What to do here? I mean, there is a threat of rook e8, and I don't know. I think this one is lost, simply. So I thought, okay, after knight to d6, I have to play that move. But here was, again, something strange, like rook e8. I was afraid of that, like crazy. So, for example, rook takes e8, then queen f7 check. King there, then knight takes e8, creating a threat of, well, several threats, like queen f8, which is probably not that dangerous, but mainly this queen to g7. Bishop is still hanging. That's the worst part. I mean, yes, I'm a, you know, nominally I'm a minor piece up, but that bishop is hanging, so at any moment can be captured. And hell, I don't know what to do here. So if, let's say bishop to f6, then knight takes f6. Queen f8, bishop g8, I'm still holding somehow. It's a miracle, but, well, that's what it is. Or maybe bishop takes h6, even the strongest. Yeah, let's have a look at this one. So g takes there, knight takes f6, attacking the bishop. Not sure. So, not sure. Should be somehow analyzed. I believe that white is definitely not worse here. So something like bishop b8 at least. Queen b8, then knight f6. Crazy. But then I can include my rook now. Oh, god damn it. I mean, this position is definitely worse than Elizen because it's so rich for different resources for like both sides here. I mean, hard to make a conclusion, but that was the thing to play. Knight to d6, my friend. You missed that one. That was crazy. Okay. Nevertheless, maybe I'm missing something like rook e7, but then, no. Rook takes e7, queen e7, knight c8. It's at very least. All right. Amazing. So, dangerous right, except finally white pieces. Okay, let's just play something decent. Okay, Sicilian. No chance to play something boring. I'm not sure why am I avoiding boring stuff here. Because Fuchse is not even there today. I don't have to impress anyone. But still, I'm probably bored myself. I want something more interesting. Okay, so not very typical order of moves here. So what is the best place for the knight? On b3 there is usually nothing to do. So I'll just put it on c2 immediately. In some lines, for example, in where it's happening, Kalashnikov, and also forgot the name of the opening, which is second name is Chelabinsk variation, Sveshnikov. Okay, so in Sveshnikov there is also knight b5, knight a3, knight c2. So I mean the knight gets to c2 after some adventures. So why not to put that knight immediately there, right? Makes sense to me at least. Now what? Let's just develop our pieces. Bishop e7. Castles. Castles. I believe b3 won't be that bad. I just want to have my pawn on c4 protected, just in case my bishop decides to get somewhere else from this diagonal. Also, maybe preparing something like bishop to a3, so I can play it in a very flexible way here. And normally you don't attack the pawn on d6, but now, since black played a5, weakening b5 so terribly, I may consider this plan as a valid one, right? So bishop to a3, targeting d6, then maybe knight b5, just directly attacking the weakness. In Sicilian, it's not considered a serious weakness, actually, because normally white doesn't have enough resources to really attack it, and black has so many resources to protect it. So it's weakened, but not a real weakness. But in this situation, well, starts looking like a problem for black, honestly. So I can play simple moves like queen d2, rook d1, f3, or bishop f3, then knight to b5, attacking the pawn on d6 at least 4 times, which will be at least annoying for black. This may cause some problems with the coordination in black's camp. That's what I'm aiming at least. So maybe I'm not winning a pawn, but I'm definitely being annoying. From a practical point of view, it's also a valid strategy. Just to be annoying. To force your opponent to defend. Alright, queen to b6. Ignoring the stuff for now. And preparing knight to b4, I believe. So what would be a good prophylaxis against this? So after knight to b4 to start with, we have knight to a4 attacking the queen and then taking on b4. So knight b4 is maybe not even a threat, right? So we can play bishop f3, for example, protecting our pawn on e4. We can also just put f3, put our pawn on f3. There are different options. If we play queen d2 now, and then there is knight at b4, knight a4 attacking the queen somewhere, and we take on b4, there's e4 hanging. That's why I'm trying to protect my pawn on e4 here. Well, let's try it. I'm not really happy with this particular position for my bishop right now, but at least I protected the pawn, so my knight is free to move to b5, let's say, or to a4 if it is necessary. Like in a line with knight to b4, I will be happy to play knight a4, because in that case I'm just winning the pawn, I guess, or something like that. But now I start seeing one problem with that, so we'll discuss it again after the game, I guess. So black, in my opinion, had a very interesting way to play exactly that knight to b4 move. All right. So queen d2, now preparing rook to d1. Yeah, what's interesting, that idea I mentioned was still valid for black. Alright, maybe now we can change the direction a bit. What about knight to d5 idea? Or maybe just knight e3, knight d5, since d5 is not controlled enough, in my opinion. But then knight to d4, that's not very pleasant. Oh, black is playing well, I must admit. Black is playing well here. Alright. Which squares to fight for in this case? Good question. Let's play this move. G3, bishop G2. Just waiting a bit for now because I'm not sure I have a good plan. Just as of this very moment. So just improving a bit the situation because, well, first of all, it's a bit more comfortable when you have the bishop Fankettoed, not on just f3. So you have additional idea of playing f4 at some point. So that's the point here. And now I guess I can play knight e3 since the knight is no longer getting to d4. Maybe I don't have to cover that square that much. Right? Yes. Makes sense to me. So we're fighting for this d5, f5 squares. Nice thing, if black plays a4, we can take with the knight. And if knight takes a4, there's bishop takes b4. Okay, bishop g5 also makes sense to me. Okay, bishop e3 followed by knight c2 may be a possibility. Slightly annoying stuff. How to deal with this threat? We can play f4. I think that's what we have to do here. It's risky, I know, but I don't think I have anything better as of right now. So let's go away. That diagonal became too dangerous to be there. Yeah, black is playing very good chess in this game, at least. Okay, I think it's forced pretty much. So what I want to do now, bishop goes away, I play knight e5, knight e5, knight e5, attacking the queen and that bishop. I take that bishop and continue with the attack on the king side. That's the idea now. Because if I don't do it, I'm just busted, right? So now everything is pretty much forced. Takes, takes. Queen is under attack, the knight is under attack, so knight d5 is absolutely forced. Now queen is under attack, queen goes away, I take the bishop on f6. And I think we have great chances to continue with just a checkmate and attack there. So let's take that one. Well, here it's even easier, so we can play b4 and win a piece. But even if there is no winning a piece, there is just queen h6, a very strong position for white. Very strong position. Now it's gonna be just a checkmate. Now it's gonna be just a checkmate in a few moves. Okay, doesn't matter where to go. No, it's absolutely winning. Intermediate check there, and very close to checkmate. So, what I was trying to achieve here, maybe f5 was even possible immediate, but in that case, I don't have this knight d5 jump, at least not so simple. That's why I played king to h1. So the main idea was, if queen goes somewhere else, not to a5 necessarily, let's say queen stays here on this diagonal, I just take there and play queen to h6, and I think it's just over for black. Yes, I have weakened e5 square, no questions, but it doesn't play any role in this particular position because it's all about absolutely different things. So it's about the direct attack against the king using mainly dark squares, and black no longer has a dark squared bishop, and you know, the king is just terrible and it's just completely abandoned here. So it's just a checkmate in several moves, I believe. And it's pretty straightforward. f6 is under attack, so something like king h8 won't help. I just take on f6 and it's over. So I'm going to play rook g1. Maybe black has a trick like this, but knight f2 is not necessarily a threat, right? So I can play various things, including even c5, damaging this coordination between black's pieces. So if d takes c5, let's say, I just play rook f3, attacking the knight and creating sort of rook to g3. As you can see, white is just completely ignoring weak squares now, you know, weak pawns and stuff, because it's not about that. It's just about the king, which should be checkmated here. That's it. Doesn't matter how, but it's the sad reality. And my bishop is at the moment on a3, but at any moment it can go there and to f6. So I think it's lost. It's just lost for black. Black probably missed that idea. Otherwise, this position looks pretty good. So if I take on a4, let's say, then knight takes a4. So what? Rook on a1 is heading, well, not so pleasant, right? For white. Black is going to take on b3. Feels like okay, but there is this detail. One small problem with the d5 square and king slide in particular. So somehow, you know, intuitively, I have chosen the right way to play. So I played g3, bishop g2, mainly to have, you know, this solid position, comfortable position for the bishop on the king side. Also having in mind this f4 idea, but I didn't know that it would work like that, right? So I didn't intend to play f4 so early. It just happened that it became quite, you know, promising for white. So what I was talking about here after bishop to f3. So my initial idea here was that if black plays knight to b4, I just immediately react with knight to a4 attacking the queen, and black indeed cannot keep the knight under control with the queen anymore, and it feels like I win a pawn. What I missed here was something like that. So I thought, okay, I will take there, but then there's this thing. I noticed this line only after I played bishop to f3. So I didn't consider that at all. And now you see why it's important to have the queen on a7 in addition to the rook, because after bishop takes c4, there's queen takes a4. I think black should be fine here, all right? Because my pawn structure is also damaged now. c4 is weakened, and yeah. Queen a4, rook a4. Okay, if bishop d6, then what? Well, maybe it's actually not so simple. So probably queen d1, rook d1 takes. The white is still a pawn up. It will be hard to convert though, or maybe not. I don't know. No, it should be hard to convert because my bishop is stupid and my pawns are weak. But still, an interesting idea that I didn't even notice, you know, in advance. So I just kept calculating there. I thought, okay, I win a pawn. What next? What? Here is this one. Okay, interesting. I just thought it would be interesting to mention. All right, let's have a look at the next challenger. Who is that? Fallon. 5 minutes. Playing with black now. So another experiment, right? Let's try it. So, experiment in which sense? I'm just playing what I'm normally avoiding. That's the whole experiment. All right, here I think it makes sense to get rid of this typically bad King's Indian bishop, right? We have a chance to do that. Normally you have that bishop already, sorry, the knight already on f6 so that you don't have that idea. But here I think it's pretty good. So now we have the same position like King's Indian stuff, but without that terrible bishop. Which is also, you know, a good defender on the other hand, but I don't believe that white will have a serious attack there anyway on the king side. So I guess that's not of a big problem for me. Not of a big concern. What's really nice is that I don't have that dead bishop. Because if normally in King's Indian pawn structure, there is a huge risk if your attack doesn't work on the king side, you end up in a terrible ending where your bishop is just nothing. Just a piece which you can easily put aside, right? And nothing's gonna change in that case. So that's the thing. Here we no longer have it, so it should be kind of advantageous for us. Knight to g7, so we fankettoed the knight. The point is, from g7, the knight supports f5 and controls e6, because whenever you play f5, you weaken e6, and you have to care about that square. If knight jumps to g5, then to e6. Well, knight g5 is not the case right now, but well, it may be a possibility in slightly different situation. For example, after queen d2. So knight can jump to g5, but with the knight on g7, I think we shouldn't care much. Can just continue with f5. e6 is covered. The other potential problem for us is, of course, this queen h6 followed by knight g5. When we have another knight, which can go to f6 to cover h7, so at very least we're not going to be checkmated here, I believe. All right, interesting. So let's take there first. I think we shouldn't react right now, at least. f6 is very naturally looking thing. Another one is f4. Also pretty much in the style of King's Indian defense. F takes c4 is not good, in my opinion. dc5, bc5, knight c5, then e5 drops. I don't like the development of that line because, yeah, maybe I'm winning a pawn for a move or two. Well, there is knight to b3 though, but okay. dc5, bc5, knight takes c5, bishop c4, intending d6, covering b3. No, I just don't like it. It's not my style, actually. Moreover, after dc5, there is bishop c4 immediately. Ah, god damn it. I don't know. Let's try it, after all. Because I have noticed that there is a problem with the knight on f3, after all. So I don't think it will work so easily for white. So if bishop c4, I can take on e4, and the knight is hanging, sort of. I mean, that should be something for black, right? The question from Azure Miss, did anyone buy the Chessable course French Toast? What is it about? Tell us. My first guess would be that it's about French defense somehow. Just wondering. So we're 2 pawns up now. If white plays d6, there is just something simple like bishop to e6, I guess. Okay, we can just go away with the king now, right? To avoid this d6 stuff. Well, d6 is still possible, though. But I can be flexible in that case. I can play bishop e6. I can also consider just taking on d6, sacrificing the exchange for a couple of pawns. And now we should think about how to attack on light squares. If queen jumps to h6 right now, we have queen to f6 covering g6 and attacking the knight. So we're fine in that line as well. But it's indeed a bit uncomfortable here. It's indeed a bit uncomfortable. So let's protect it. So maybe it was not necessary to grab that pawn on c5 after all. Oh! Snap, I didn't see that at all. That changes everything. God damn it. Okay, let's bring the bishop at least. Yep. Don't like this position now. Just hate it, to be honest. It's just better for white, I guess. Maybe much better. I thought, okay, maybe I'm at least having an extra pawn, but that's not the case anymore. Is a complete knight to c3 repertoire for white, taking in almost every conceivable black response by Hare Krishna. Nice! I have to buy it. Because I play knight to c3 against French. That's a good deal for me, I guess. Or maybe you can buy it for me, guys. Just a sign of support for what I'm doing. This position is so terrible. I mean, I don't even know what to do here. Okay, at least there is no knight g6 with the checkmate, because we can take with the bishop. So that's why I have protected it. But what to do? Rook to a4 with the idea of b5. Maybe. Is there a direct threat of any other kind? Knight to f7, knight to g. No, I don't think so. So still have time for it. Rook to a4. I'm really holding here. Maybe I'm not, actually. But it's really just a terrible position for black. Just a terrible position. Maybe g5 is forced now, I guess, to prevent queen from moving to h6. Just making only moves, I guess, with black here. Let's just take it. I think it's my only chance here for some play. Such a bad position. Yeah. It's closer and closer. I think I'm gonna lose here. What? What was that? Is it really winning? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, it's a draw. But I was very close. I was very close to losing it. Where did I make my mistake? First of all, god damn it, this knight g6 was genius. If I'm not missing something, probably I'm not missing anything. So there is just this shred of... oh, it was not a checkmate actually. So I could have actually played king to g8. Why didn't I do that? It's a good question. It was pretty scary, right? So queen h7, king f7 there. At very least. At very least. And I can't really go to e7. There's queen to g7. So at least it is a, you know, a perpetual check. But probably I should have done that. Otherwise, I'm just toasted. So, yeah, I captured there. But, well, I don't have enough coordination here to make those pawns work for me, right? Crazy things happening. I know that's the result of terrible mistakes. Still, pretty cool. So where did I make my mistake? So this knight to c5 looked not so terrible. F takes c5, knight takes there. Maybe king h8 after all was just a waste of time and was critical. Maybe instead of doing that, I must have played something like knight to f5. The idea is the following, like... if d6, first of all, I want to put my knight on d6 and just, you know, solve the problem of that bishop kind of forever, right? I also preparing the g7 square for my king so that my king feels comfortable. If d6 here, I suppose I can just play bishop to e6. Well, even king to g7 is not that bad, right? Because I don't see a threat, honestly. Because d6 is pinned, right? So dc7, I just win a queen. If d7, I just take with the bishop. And then after rook to d1, I just move my bishop somewhere. I can also just play bishop e6 here, not taking that risk at all. So after bishop e6, knight e6, I should be fine because d6 is hanging, so something like that should be okay. If queen take, oh sorry, queen to d5, then I have queen to d6. So I have a couple of extra pawns. Of course I will lose some, but after all I should keep at least one extra pawn, I believe. Yeah, so that was a move, knight to f5. So king h8 was just pathetic, like a move that accomplishes absolutely nothing and kind of not preventing anything. So instead I must have played knight to f5. Had to play that move. Come on, just improving the position of the knight, and also controlling d4. Pay attention. So it's a direct fight against this queen d4 idea. But I didn't see that e4 was hanging. God damn it. So even here I could have played. No, knight e6 doesn't work at all. There is at least knight g6, but also queen e3. So yeah, just have to protect the knight, and then e4 drops. And in that case, well, the whole idea behind taking on c5 winning the pawn was wrong then. Alright. But I think that bishop h6 was okay for black. So indeed, the idea of getting rid of that bishop is valuable thing to know. Okay. Before knight g6, engine evaluates the position as plus 6.75. Knight g6 is zeros. Yes, because of that perpetual, I think, that we have discussed. So it only looks great. In fact, yeah, if black plays king to g8, the correct move. I think white has nothing better than just a perpetual here. Because if you take like that, let's say, I just protect my knight like this, let's say, attacking f2, and there is no follow-up for white, simply, right? No resources. So queen h7 followed by queen g6 should be played, and that's a perpetual, and that's a draw. Why I played queen h6, that was a bad move. And instead of playing knight to g6 in principle, although it's a great looking idea, Azurmis suggests rook to d1, creating sort of knight f7. The thing is, knight f7 is not bad as threat, right? So if you play, let's say, b5, knight f7, rook f7, that's why I play queen a3 to control f8 square, right? So I'm not sure. But rook d1 was, anyway, a good move. Maybe even rook to c7 was a move here. I'm not sure. Like, what's wrong with that move, for example? Just grabbing the pawn, attacking my knight on g7. Oh, okay. Now I see what's wrong with that move. There's queen a1 and queen takes e5, right? Yeah. That's not necessary for white to blunder like that. So white is not me, right? I can blunder like that, but white shouldn't. So indeed, maybe rook d1 deserved attention. I have no idea. All in all, well played. So, Patrick is the next. Accept. This is probably the first time I'm playing white pieces against Patrick. So, let's play something good. That's what I'm playing against Caro-Kann nowadays. Especially in Blitz games. The easiest possible line, I guess. If you're anything like me, and you have problems with certain openings, and you don't really want to learn like a lot of theory, find lines like this, where you just play natural moves, and you're gonna be fine. In fact, white's idea is pretty solid. So we just have a Carlsbad pawn structure reversed, so it's absolutely playable. It's not that ambitious, maybe, compared to other lines, but let me know the line in which white has an advantage against Caro-Kann. I don't think there is any. Maybe Shelley Ford knows, but he won't tell ya. So, I mean, it's not an argument when somebody says that, well, in this line, white doesn't have an advantage. Okay, white doesn't. But as I said, I just don't know the line where white does. So it's just a question then of a question of taste, personal preference, what kind of position you want to get against Caro-Kann. By the way, in this one, white indeed has the advantage because white has a better bishop at very least. So black should have played bishop g4 at some point, and then e6, as Shelling Ford once mentioned. So if you play Caro-Kann and you have a French bishop, then it's a sign that something went wrong. It's not the precise, sentence, but the point was like that. Shelling told us that during one of the bunters, I guess. That's very good. That describes the issue in black's position right now, for example, in a very good way. And what is white's plan? Well, very simple. If you are familiar with, Carlsbad reverse, you just put the knight on e5. You may support it with the f4, and long term you just want to attack on the king side. That's it. Pretty simple idea. f7 can be captured now. Right. So there are plenty of different options that come to mind right now, since the position is absolutely winning. Knight takes h6, queen f3, or maybe queen f3 first, intended knight to h6. Another one is just to take on d7 and put the knight on e5. That's the easiest one. And I think I will do exactly that. I'll just take on d7 and put the knight on e5. Extra pawn, better pawn structure. Technically winning stuff. God damn it, I didn't see that one. Alright. Well, it's not a big deal, fortunately. Or maybe it is. So if we play queen to h5, there is knight to f6. Knight h6 takes queen g6, queen g7, okay. That's not what we want. If we play knight e5 immediately here, there is what? Knight e5, knight e5, knight e5, so bishop g6 maybe. Knight to f8, just bishop h5. Also not entirely satisfying, to be honest. Nah, I hate it. It's probably not the best one. So the question from Azur missed, why take the French bishop? Well, in situations when there is no pawn on f7 and the e-file is open, taking such a bishop means that e6 is completely weak. And you can easily attack it. So sometimes this French bishop is actually a good defender. Well, in many cases it's a good defender. And sometimes you have a real prospect of attacking that pawn. And in that case, I think it's a good idea to consider, to take it. So, what to do now? Let's just attack the e6. So it's like, a classic example of it is one of the games between Fischer and Petrosian, where, as far as I remember, yeah, it was exactly the light squared bishop which was captured, which was also very passive and very bad, and was, at first glance, not very good exchange, but it was indeed a great defender of light squares, and right after it vanished, disappeared, it was just a piece of cake for Fischer to attack those weaknesses. So sometimes passive bishops are just great defenders of certain things. Okay, now what to do? Now we can play just knight e5, right? We no longer have to do anything specific. Just put the knight on e5. Just black failed to grab our knights. Let's just escape. Knight h6, g takes h6. I didn't see a follow-up. So. Yeah, let's take there. Now it's back to normal. I mean, we have what? We have extra material. E6 is gonna drop. And I have to be careful. There's queen d7 stuff. Bishop f5. Or probably just rook to e8 to e1, right? Yeah, let's just take that one. Queen d7, just another one to e1, supporting that one on e6. If we need, we have bishop to f5, and we should have enough time to protect our queen with the h3 if we need to. Now there is a threat of rook to e8. Let's just get rid of it. Yep. This is gonna be the end, right? About this move. Increasing the material advantage, I believe. Or just simplifying the things. Also a valid strategy here. We have how many? 2 extra pawns, right? It's more than enough. More than enough to win it. And the recipe is simple. Just centralization, then b3, c4. Stuff like that. Alright? So I must play this somehow here. After knight captured on f7. What happened? I mean, I didn't understand. So rook somewhere. This should be just absolutely lost for black, right? Oh, probably I should have captured on c6, actually. That was the right way to do it. Just knight takes c6 and then knight to e5. No problems with the e5 square. Nothing, absolutely. Like extra pawn for no compensation. Like the same, but with 1 extra pawn for white. Okay. And for black, yeah. So in this line, it's very important to activate your light squared bishop. So after, say, there's bishop f4, the main theoretic continuation is bishop to g4. So in which case, after queen to b3, you put your queen on c8, or let's say, and then at some point you play e6, and the thing is, your bishop is already here, out of the box, right? Not imprisoned there on the queen side, doing nothing. And then you can even play bishop h5 and bishop to g6, exchanging my main attacking piece. That's the idea. All right? Okay. Next one is Magnus is a Kasparov wannabe. Except. What a nickname. So boom. I know you wanted me to play that. Right? Right. So that's the point here. Just play d5. And the idea is just to have advantage in space, as far as I know. Just a minor piece down, actually. To me, it looks like just playing a minor piece down. All right. Who cares? We can play e5 right now. Is it correct? It's a bad thing. No. Let's just develop our pieces first. Oh, god damn it. This is so terrible position. But we'll do our best to survive it. By the way, is it a Halloween gambit? This knight takes e5 followed by d4. Or Halloween is something else. I don't know. Yeah, so people react with Happy Halloween. So I didn't actually confuse anything with anything. Let's go. So black is actually giving me a lot of freedom here. So what to do next? Just development. Make sure you have a 600 plus rating advantage to play that. Sometimes it's not enough. I guess. Some positions are so bad that it's not enough. Okay. Castling. So what do we have? We have a pawn center here. That's the only thing we have. That's literally the only thing we have here. I should have played something like queen to c2, but black is not going to develop his pieces. I think this completely justifies my opening choice. So, we can win one more pawn, right? And no. Let's put the bishop here. So now at least we have two pawns to compensate the missing piece, right? Okay. Now I like my position. Still not winning whatsoever, but, well, we're very close, because black is not coordinated at all. It's pretty strange that black didn't develop his pieces at all. So, and we're going to get closer to the king and just checkmate it. That's the plan. That is the plan. Bishop c4? Nope. Don't see a threat, so let's create our threat of a checkmate. There are also some, you know, side things possible, like bishop to c5, let's say, where the rook is going. But for now, I think the checkmate is the most promising idea. Check a mate, right? Right? Right. Okay. That was a joke, of course. But this one is probably a good idea for black, actually. The knight to b8 and this d6. So right now, black is just a minor piece up. The only problem is, and it's really a tiny problem here for black, is a slight disadvantage in space. But imagine there is a pawn on e5 and you have sort of king's Indian defense. And just play g6 here, I mean, and then bishop to g7. And no problems here, just a minor piece up. I mean, it's absolutely lost position for white. Like, absolutely. There's no single scenario I can imagine that white can hold it. Make a draw even. So just bishop g7 then. Knight e7, castle, come on. So it's like normal stuff. I think it's even an advantage that you don't have a pawn on e5 because, you know, your bishop is great on g7. That's pretty much it. So after f4, maybe you could have tried something like f5, I don't know. e5 takes, and something like, no. It's exactly what white wants, actually. So yeah, I guess bishop e7 is just not a good decision. Just, or maybe okay, bishop e7, f4, knight f6, even that is fine. Bishop to d3, maybe bishop g4 is too much. Just castle first, and then undermine the things like c6. Okay. Anyway, let's have a look. What? Onam again, but we have played already, so I'll decline. Dangerous Ride we have played. The Trailblazer. Accept. Playing with black. So, I think one of the last games. Maybe just the last one. I don't know. Let's see. So something solid. It's hard to experiment against bishop to f4, obviously. So you just play... Okay. It's a sort of... That's still sort of experimental. Because I'm a pawn down right now. So a6, the idea was pretty simple. I wanted to prevent knight to b5 move. Because it's annoying with the bishop on f4. Right now I want to play something like e5 at the right moment and then take the pawn on c5. Or maybe queen a5 and take the pawn on c5. And after all, I will have a slight advantage in the center. Yeah. Development looks pretty natural for white here. So we're both fighting for e5 square. h3, okay. It's probably forcing me to do this. I don't know why white didn't play queen takes f3. It's pretty logical to me preparing castling, actually. Now let's just grab that pawn on c5. Why didn't I play e5? Because of bishop g5, and I'm having some problems with protecting d5. I believe this pawn should be protected. It's a very important one. Central beauty here. Controlling a lot of important squares, like e4, for example. So imagine there is no pawn on d5, then I can jump to e4, then to d6. Stuff like that, right? Which is definitely not the case here. Alright, so white is just mixing the things. Can I just take on b4 now? I'm wondering. So knight b4, a b4, bishop b4, bishop to e5, something like knight to d7, bishop takes g7, rook g8, bishop d4, then e5. May well be just decent thing for black to do, but I believe it's not necessary because I can miss one detail which may change the evaluation of the whole line. In Blitz, it's not a good idea to spend so much time on calculations. So let's just make something that looks also okay, right? c4. Well. Maybe now taking on b4. No, still not clear. Knight b4, well, actually clear. It's c5 and then a b4 and white wins. It doesn't work. All right, so let's bring the rook here. All right, queen somewhere. Now, since we have the advantage in development, I think it's a pretty natural plan for us to try to open up the position. By the way, in case of cd5, I wanted to take with the pawn and then play d4 as soon as possible. Let's try d4 in this case. So as I said, I want to open up a position because I'm better developed. I want to attack the king there. For example, castling now is not possible because of d takes e3, f takes c3, and then queen jumps to g3, just getting super close to the king. That is one of my ideas, just to take there. And if e4, well, yeah, position remains close, but now look at this holes in white's camp. So we can just put one knight on f4, another one on e5 if we want. And we start just, you know, maneuvering around white's weaknesses here on f3 and h3. This is just terrible position for white, from a positional point of view, I guess. It's pretty close to a lost one. Right, so there is a threat of knight f3 now, winning the queen. It's important to create all these threats before white castled. So that's one of the strategies. Even if you don't have, direct attack against the king, let's say, but the king of your opponent is still in the center, so try to create the threats of other kind, which deflects your opponent from castling. It's also absolutely valid strategy here. What to do now? Just knight to c4 looks pretty good. What I'm trying to achieve here, not so sure. This one, okay. So my pawn is pretty close, right, to the promotion square. It's an amazing progress I made with that one. So now what is the file I want to open? It's obviously the F file now. Another plan may be to bring the queen to d3, but it's not that realistic. Maybe I just made this d2 too early, I guess. By the way, this queen may be trapped in some lines. Well, maybe not trapped, but there may be a problem with it, I suppose. Anyway, for now I think it's very natural to put the knight on f4, create a sort of knight to h3. Knight to h3 is possible anyway, but there is queen to g3, I think that's the idea. So if queen g3, rook g3 then, right? Okay. So what should we do? What should we do here? f5. Bishop to b3. Not clear to me. Queen to e5 is absolutely a decent thing to do. Even knight to h3, and after queen to g3 takes knight back to f4, that ending is also absolutely okay. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, this way we eliminate any potential problems with opponent's counterplay, right? And we still have a terrific pawn structure, and our pieces are much better than opponent's ones. I mean, what can go wrong here? Looks great. I mean, so look at these knights. I mean, I love them. I just love them. Look at these knights. My God. It's not so often you can get those knights, right? Do I need that pawn, actually, on f3? Is it really important? Yeah, it's a pawn after all. Let's take that one. But we shouldn't hurry up, right? We can improve other pieces as well here. Back to f4. No way. No way. And rook to c1 is coming. Yeah. Such a pawn on d2 and so great. So great knights. I think it's hard for white to survive it. Okay, the only concern here is what? The time on the clock, right? So we should be a bit faster now. Just a bit faster. Oh, what am I doing, huh? What an idiot. White could have captured there. White can capture now. Oh my God. Playing like a moron now. Just lost my lovely Doesn't matter. Oh, come on. Come on. Yes? No? Yes. just with 0 on the clock. Oh my god. This is crazy. I mean, I started playing like a complete idiot closer to the end of the game. But still, I still hope that you've learned something from it. Anyway, it was a strange episode. Okay. But you tell me if you enjoyed it. I hope it became not so bad tradition to meet every Saturday after a long break from my side. Yeah, and if nothing terrible happens, I'm going to continue in 1 week, same time. All right. So take care, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you. Bye-bye.